Now remember, if you've been in a road traffic accident and it's not your fault, G4 Claims, they're here to make it easy for you. Because what do? They provide you with complete accident management support that you require. Listen to this. They're going to recover their costs for the at-fault party. Not only that, they're going to sort you a like-for-like vehicle replacement. Get this. They're also going to organise your vehicle to be repaired at one of their approved body shops and returned back to your front door. Now listen, should your vehicle be deemed a write-off, they're going to recover the pre-accident value for your motor, write you a big fat cheque for it, and best of all, it's not going to cost you a penny, as they charge the at-fault insurance direct. Why would you do anything else? You need to go to G4 Claims because they don't cold call, they don't buy data. Once I've processed your claim, your insurance is going to remain unscathed. It's an absolute no-brainer. The best thing you can do is go to Nicole and the team because they're not going to take on your case if they don't think they can help you. So, if you've been in a road traffic accident or you ken somebody that has, get onto G4 Claims. It's easy. 01698 767 172. That's 01698 767 172. Get them at notatfullclaim.com or find them on social media at G4 Claims Limited. G4 Claims, not at fault claims, made easy.
Now let's welcome to Football Daft a legend of the Scottish game. As a manager, he took Falkirk to the First Division title twice and their highest league finish. He also took Kilmarnock to the League Cup final and led Dunfermline through administration. He is most known for his time at Hearts, though, where he won the Scottish Cup, Manager of the Year, and is now a Hall of Famer at the club. It is none other than Jim Jefferies. Welcome to the show, Jim.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
How you doing, mate? You good?
Yeah, I'm fine, thanks.
Good.
Like everybody else, glad that things are easing up a wee bit and getting back out on the golf course.
You enjoy your golf?
For a few months. No, I like the golf, but we're suddenly going. I think the last time I've had a proper round of golf was the 30th of November, so it's been quite a way off. The reason for that is because my course is some 40 minutes away and you're not allowed to travel into that area, so I'm in the wrong postcode, so was to wait till that news came the other day where we can now travel to outdoor activities and sport. So
will you be
tomorrow?
Will you be on the course tomorrow morning, first time?
Tomorrow morning.
Good on you, Jim.
Did you watch the Open?
Yeah, I watched all the
Masters. Sorry.
It was a Masters. Come on.
The Masters, yeah, I watched that. Had a bit of a flutter on it, so we managed to break even.
Oh, now you're talking.
Good.
So, Jim, myself and the boys are obviously buzzing to have you on the show. You know, you're a legitimate legend of Scottish football, and it's great to have you on the show. But tell me this, did you always like football growing up?
Football? Oh, everything, right from as a kid. That the only thing I ever got for Christmas for my first, when I started as a young boy getting out, was a Hearts strip and tracksuit and a ball and an orange and a packet of peanuts or something like that.
So you were a Hearts fan all the way back to when you were a kid?
Yeah.
That must have been amazing when you eventually got to walk through the doors as a manager of the club.
Oh, without doubt. I think when you say out management, and you never think about it, you just think about the club you're with and having success. And obviously, the success that started at Berwick Rangers and then up to Falkirk, and worked with a great chairman there, and David Holmes, who was put forward with the owners of the club. And he goes about and tells everybody that it was quite a pressure job, because I think everybody associated David with maybe a top name, and like say Graham Roberts was mentioned and Terry Butcher, because they had all played for him at Ibrox. And but I think to go around telling everybody that they were going to do something for the first time in their history is go up winning the title, because I think they always went up as runners up. I think Bob will confirm. John will confirm that. So I think that was a lot of pressure, but we managed to do it, and it was great to achieve that. And we had some. It was there was obviously when I moved to Hearts there was a little bit of a thing happening, but that just shows you how much I respected it at Falkirk, and it was one of the best things I've ever had is getting the Millennium Award or Manager of the Millennium for Falkirk after the way that I was sort of, when I moved to Hearts, you know, it wasn't the best.
You broke my heart, Jim. You broke my heart.
Well, it was just one of those things that George, I meant to say I was going to Hearts, and then the mistake I made was I went to Falkirk, and there was hundreds of kids there, and people had gathered to try and emotionally change my mind. And of course, the chairman did a good job on me at the time. We got on great with him, and we did a job. And I was just fed up with it, to be honest, at the time, and just said, look, but Hearts were very persistent, and they knew I was always wanting to go and take that challenge, having supported and played for them. So, as I say, maybe 2 or 3 weeks, it was a bit of took a little bit of a criticism, but it was all my own fault. So, as I say, we move on, and but for Falkirk to give me that title is one I hold very dearly, above all the others that I've managed to get, you know.
That's brilliant. Jim, what are you doing just now? Are you actually part of, I was reading your Wikipedia and it says you're a sort of advisor at Hearts. Is that the case, or have you taken a step back? What's happening?
Yeah, you know, last week when there was a bit of a criticism flying about, everybody said, you know, what's Jim Jefferies doing and that. And it's quite simple. When you're an advisor, consultant to Anne and the board, then whatever goes on or what I say is purely behind closed door. It's confidential, and if Anne uses it, then fine. If she doesn't, we get on with it. But you know, if whatever I say would only come out if the board or Anne wanted it to. So, and I think that's the same for if you're a consultant advisor in any walk of life. That's you know, that's something that's always held in confidence. It's not my job to come out and say what I think publicly. What I have done is, you know, whenever Robbie's asked me to support him, whether I agree with it or not, it's not up to me. It's up to he stands involved, and I've helped him all every time he's asked me to help him, either with a player going out or a player coming in or advice. And I've managed to do that, and that's my rules simply. What I think and what is always, as I say, it's not for public domain, you know.
Right. But congratulations, obviously winning the league, Jim. Champions went.
Yeah, well, it's great. Yeah,
good news.
Main thing, yeah.
But what do you think of the team's performance? Obviously, overall, you've won the league. That's obviously the main aim at the start of the season. But what do you think of the team's performance this season?
Look, I think Robbie knows, and the players know themselves. That's the most important thing, that we've probably struggled with some performances, disappointing in the 2 cup competitions this year. But you know, all the pressure was on Hearts to get up. They've got there. Yes, if they had hopefully could have done it a few weeks earlier. But the always hardest thing in any sport, whether it's snooker, it's the last frame. If it's golf, it's the last hole, or it's the same in football. You know, it's always tough to get over the line. It doesn't matter how much you lead. How many times have we seen in sport that, you know, it's a foregone conclusion, then suddenly, whoa, wait a minute, you know, it's going to be a lot tighter than we think. And I think that happens in tennis. And you could be, it can go, you know, you think it's all over, and then suddenly a couple of things swing either way. And I think that's the beauty of sport, that you can never tell till it's over. And but we got there in the end, you know.
But Jim, do you notice a big difference, feel like maybe when you were managing in the 90s, in terms of managers, the time that they're given to try and make things work? It feels like if it's not working within 3 months, or the fans start voicing their concerns, it's like, oh, he's in the road out. Have you noticed that there is a big change with that since you were managing back then?
Well, put it this way, I was at Falkirk. Falkirk for 5 years after. But Kilmarnock, I was there for 8 years.
Do you know what? We were talking about that. 8 years you were at Kilmarnock. That is tremendous. That is amazing.
You don't get that time in football now. In fact, the big thing for me now is when I first started out, the manager was always in control or had made the final decision on everything. There was no chief executives, and when we started out, there was no directors of football.
Sorry, Jim. Was that until you ran into Romanov?
That's a book on its own, that one. But you know, in those days when you first started out, the tea lady wouldn't buy you a tea bag without coming to see if it was okay. That the manager agreed that she could go ahead and do that. But just over the years, the manager's position has definitely diminished. It's now coming down. In fact, you don't get many managers now. You get head coaches and the director of football deals with football, and then chief exec, and then up until. So it is a lot tougher now to be successful and get along. Put it this way, I think testimonials are out there. I think they're a thing of the past.
Unless your name's Ricky Little.
Do you know what? I want to get into the meats and bones of this, right? Because I'll tell you what, me and Bob are Rangers fans growing up, right? And I would have to say that one of the saddest days in our lives was probably one of the happiest days of your lives, right? We've spoken about this podcast before. 16th of May, 1998. It was all meant to be a beautiful send-off to Ali McCoy, Durant, to the goalie.
You ruined it, Jim. You ruined it.
I know.
But what a day if you're a Jambo, because I've actually went back and watched that recently, and all the kind of, it was on BBC not that long ago.
I'm a Russo man.
And there was all the kind of the BBC had shown footage of yous with the open top bus through Edinburgh. What a day that must have been as a Hearts manager, as a team you've supported as a wee boy. Describe that day.
Just you know, we believed, funny enough, when we went to prepare for the final, we had a belief about us that we lost obviously to two cup final. You know, the 5-1 was. I mean, remember that year it was 5-1. We were the year before we were nearly relegated. We were one game away from relegation. So to get to a cup final and finish 4th in the league was a fantastic year for us. So, but we knew. We said after the game, well, it's hurting today, but we need to get back quickly to put it right. Well, the next year we got to the League Cup final when the Rangers beat us at Parkhead 4-3.
Parkhead, Gaza.
Great game. Gaza, 15 minutes of pure magic.
Stevie Fulton scored a great goal that day, didn't he? Stevie Fulton
scored a goal. We were different class the second half. When we came out, we equalised. We looked like we were going to go on to win it. And then Gascoigne, just 15 minutes of pure magic, with a couple of goals, and we still came back and still made it. But we felt that day that it made us determined the right third time lucky. When we got back to the final again, you know, things had changed at Rangers because, as you said quite rightly, they were starting to break up. Gascoigne was gone. Loudrop was in. We thought he's always going to be a danger. He's such a great player, but he was on his way to Chelsea. I don't think he had been so consistent that last. We might be subconsciously looking after himself, you know. So we always hit on that you know, he isn't maybe right at the top of his form, but we've got to be aware of him. But the big one for me was, and we told the players when we were down in England preparing, we weren't going to get the answer till Tuesday, and that was that Alberts, who had pulled Rangers, and we drew 2-2 in a league game at Ibrox. And he scored both free kicks, one just before and one late on when we looked like we were going to win. And but I felt he was the one that was pulling it, and he got sent off in the last game of the season. And we thought, well, if it's a straight red, he misses. If it's 2 yellows, he's okay. So when we heard he was out, we just thought it was our best chance, because there are a lot of still good players, but didn't have these players that make the difference between, you know.
I remember the semi-final that season. Alberts dragged Rangers through that semi-final.
He did. So it was a big plus for us. So, you know, we got the players' heads. We prepared right. We felt that was our best chance. And as we said to them, we believed that, and I've said this often, that the crowd, the Tynecastle crowd there, would probably 40 years since they won a trophy. So we said that there's probably 75% I'm going to turn up here thinking they'll never see Hearts win a cup. But it was once we won it, it seemed to be the catalyst to go in and win it another. They've won it twice since in a 10-year spell. So it was such a major day. It was just mostly for the fans who had suffered the 86 in Dundee when they lost the league.
Aye.
They nearly won they were in 2 or 3 finals. They just couldn't get over the line. So we just drummed into their heads all week. You know, you'll never believe the reception or the accolades that you'll get for pulling it off. And we know it's not going to be easy. And but it was just probably, anybody who was involved was going to turn around and say it's the greatest day of their lives.
Jim,
it must have been some day for old Gilles Rousset, because when I think about the Scottish, was it the cup final the year before, and the ball
when Laudrup under his legs,
you know, for somebody like Gilles Rousset, that goalie, that must have been like, whoa, that's it. That's the monkey now off my back.
Well, Gilles had some fantastic saves.
He was a good goalie.
He was a great goalkeeper,
a
great lad. The wee story I was referring to later involves Gilles.
Tell us.
I'll tell you, right?
Tell us a story.
Big Gilles, I still speak to him regular, and he's such a great lad. And because of the goal in the 5-1 game, just after half time, it threw his legs, you know, it was so heartbreaking for him that, you know, he was distraught after that. So to see him get the final, the man of the match at the final was just if I wanted anybody to get it, it was him, and he got it. So great game, because he was such a great character. But I remember a story when Gary Locke, who was single at the time again, and Gilles had a daughter who was just getting to the age of 16, 17, who was French, getting quite pretty, you know, and quite a target for the boys, the single boys. So, and of course, Jim Hamilton was I should have answered to a lot of the questions you asked me earlier, as far as training and all that. But anyway, Jim was quite a character in the dressing room and that. So, and Gilles used to just shake his head at some of the things he did. So I turned around to him and I says one day, I says, "Is it okay to swear here, is it?"
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye, batter.
So he says, I says, "Gilles," I says, "Laurie's starting to catch the eye quite a few players." He says, "I know." I says, "What happens if Jim Hamilton was to knock on the door and asked to take her out?" He said, and Gilles had a stammer, right? So he says to me, "Gaffer, I would take a gun and fucking shoot him." And I says, "What about Lucky? What if Lucky turned up and asked her out?" He says, "I would fucking shoot myself."
That's brilliant.
That is a true story. That is a true story.
Brilliant.
Great character. I still keep in touch with these boys. You know, they were a fantastic team. And
it was a great side, Jim. It was a
good
great
team.
heart side, man.
They were a good, well-balanced team, you know, David, Weir, and that was a good thing. 5 of these youngsters came through. There's a lot of these youngsters at the start when we were building that team, had come through the ranks. It was unfortunate Gary Locke missed it through serious injury, but we had a really good right balance side with a lot of pace with Neil McCann and Colin Cameron, and the back four were just outstanding all year. David Weir and Gary.
Jim, you're mentioning Davy Weir there. Like, obviously, when you look back at like your Falkirk days and stuff, did you ever think Davy would become the player he became?
I think you know, when I seen him, I thought, you know, we've got a player on our hands here, and actually Rangers, again another piece of information. Rangers, I knew Walter liked him, and we arranged to meet. Walter and I arranged to meet at Westerwood. So, and this is another true story. So we sort of agreed, which was a lot of money in those days, something like £350,000 or something. And so I says, okay, well, anyway. So we had just changed chairman at the time, or a new owner of the club, not just but he became chairman. George Folston, who came from Hamilton, he was with the Hamilton Ackies. So he took over the club. And I told him about what happened, because we didn't have a chairman at the time, so I had to go and speak to Walter Russell and chat it over, and he liked him. So the plan was the next day we were to go and meet David Murray and Davy, what do you call him, Walter, myself, and George Fulston happened to come in the door just that 24 hours before we were due to meet. I think it's 48 hours before we were due to meet David Murray in Edinburgh. So we walks in, right, and Walter and I have virtually agreed the deal when George Baldwin and just walks in. And David Murray says, well, we're here. We've got a great interest in Davy Weir. Walter and Jim have been speaking about it. And George just right away interrupted and say, yes, I know that. He says, so we've sort of agreed on three, and he says, it'll cost you £750,000. We'll start there, right, George? And it was funny. The meeting was over in 30 seconds. We just got up. David got up and said, well, thanks for coming anyway. I hope you enjoyed your coffee. But I knew Walter was always after him. And he was my first target when I got the Hearts job. But to get him for, a couple of players and something, I think it was something like 80,000 or something like that, because, and we could have got a lot more back had he not been out of contract with 6 months ago, but Walter took him to Everton, and then he gone out to play for Scotland, and again that was another. You asked the question, did you see him going on? When I signed him, his first match for the reserves, we were playing a first team fixture at Falkirk, but I let him go and play for the reserves against a border team actually. That a mate of mine phoned me up and says, could you give us a game? I said, well, we took them to Grangemouth and I couldn't see him because I was away with the first team. So when I got back, he phoned, he says, who was the centre half playing tonight? I says, Tom Black. I says, it's Davy Weir. I says, that was his first game. And he said, he'll play for Scotland.
Really?
That was just on a pre-season friendly in a border town, Falkirk it was, that came to play in a fixture of an East of Scotland team, and just playing a pre-season friendly and just to help them out, and that's what his words was, and he was right.
Because I remember like when Walter Smith's second spell at Ibrox, and I think he was his first signing grade, I think, wasn't he? Davy was his first signing. And he came up, I think it was just a kind of stopgap. Him and Big Ugo kind of signed at the same time because we were very soft at the back. But
steady the ship to the end of the season, wasn't it?
Davy Weir went on to win bloody trebles and UEFA Cup finals and stuff, and he just seemed to keep going and going and going. Just unbelievable talent.
Is there any player? It's funny you say that because you never raised your voice. It's funny, as a wee boy watching the football, I thought, I'd have thought the opposite. I thought you'd be hairdryer treatment, if things aren't quite working out at half time, you'd gaff your nut. But you don't like that at all. You're quite a calm guy, the way you're kind of talking there.
With me? With Davy? Davy, you mean, or me?
No, you. Did you?
Me?
Aye.
Yeah, you get this reputation that you can go in. I've had didn't get me wrong, I think in the early days, you wouldn't get away with it now, but in the early days, we've had a few up against the wall, that.
Tell us.
Well, I can tell you one time, it was Kevin Drinkle I think he was my bodyguard because we played, it was Falkirk. I mean, John will know this because we had a really good centre forward in Richard Cadet, small black lad, really terrific in the box. Hard to play. In fact, I think we beat Rangers, not Rangers at the Cup, didn't we? And
yep, 2-0 at Ibrox, the Cup.
Aye, that's right. So, but what happened is we were the first. You remember the trophy called the B&Q Cup?
B&Q Cup.
And it was for first and second division teams. Yeah. And we decided not to take, because there was no Premier League first of all, but it was a trophy nonetheless, and we wanted to win it. We were in the first division, the championship is known now. So I said to the boys, why don't we, forget the bonuses. Let's just pile it up. If we can get to the final, we'll try and maybe prepare away in Spain or something like that, and for the final of it. So we did that, and we managed to get a trip over to Nerca to prepare for 4 or 5 days and had some bit of laugh, bit of banter. And we were playing St Mirren. Jimmy Bone was the manager in the final at Motherwell on a cold, miserable, snowy, wet, sleety day. 6,000 Falkirk fans in the stadium at Motherwell. So you ken the atmosphere was great. And of course, we had been in Spain and we'd beaten them twice in the league comfortably. So everybody, we were favourites. Well, we were lucky to be 0-0 at half time. Our goalkeeper saved us, and St Mirren were well on top. So I come in, and Billy says, "What are you going to do?" I says, "We've not got time to go round them all." And I says, "So we'll pick on one guy that we know who might retaliate and get the message over." So I come in, and wee Richard Cadet got it, didn't he? Because he never broke sweat. He was still in Nerca, sunning himself, I think. So I've come in, I've read the riot act, and he's up and had a wee go, So I've picked him up by the neck, and I've banged him against the wall, and Yogi's dived in. Kevin Drinkle dived in and said, "Look, calm down, calm down." But they did. Yogi turned and said, "And by the way, he's right." And you could see there's some scratch marks sort of appearing down his neck. And I thought, "What have I done here?" I just lost it. Just lost it.
I love the fact that you've been in and Billy's. I've not got time to get in them all.
It's not that. What he's done is he's dodged Big Yogi and he's went for the weakest guy in the room.
Without a doubt. So we go across, right? And on the pitch, the centre circle there, in those days, obviously, their team had to play forward now. He sprinted, right, from where he was standing. They had the kick off, and he sprinted and took the ball off the centre, when the centre, the ball sent down. And the first move, and it was played out wide, and it comes across, goal.
Wow.
Within a minute. We won the game 3-0. We were outstanding, so won the game 3-0. And of course, we go and celebrate at the Park Hotel when we got back in Falkirk. And who comes up when I'm at the bar? Cadet. Right? And Drinkle came across because he thought he was going to have a go because he's got 3 scratch marks down still in his neck, getting a bit redder and redder. So he come across, and Drinks thinks he's going to have a whack, And I says, "What is it?" He says, "I want to buy you a drink." I says, "What?" He says, "Okay." He says, "If you hadn't done that, I wouldn't be having this medal." He had his medal in his hand. He says, "If you hadn't done what you done," he says, "we wouldn't have won this cup, and now wouldn't have had this medal." Just
they put up the arse they needed, Jim.
Sorry?
They put up the backside they needed.
Yeah, that's, I've often said that, there's nothing wrong. I think it's different now. We know that. You've got to adapt. I mean, there's nothing wrong with giving somebody a rocket. You just have to watch it. Maybe some days you or things in the past you could. I'm sure most managers have been in a situation with certain players years ago that could do that. You don't do it now. It's there's nothing against giving somebody who you think's needing a wee rocket, and there's others who you think and that's the beauty of management, because there's others that something like that would destroy a lot of people. So you've got to know to who put the arm round and who not to. And sometimes when you learn about your players and that, you know how to work situations.
Tell me this one, Jim. See if you could. Would you put Stan Collymore up against the wall with a throat?
Well, another good story with him. I tried to sign him for Hearts, but funny, when I got the Bradford City job, right, Stan was at Bradford City. So we had when I was introduced to the players, then he just said, he says, "You've eventually caught up with me then." I said, "Yeah." But Stan had this, he parked his car at Bradford City's training ground, at the stadium where they changed. And the chairman came to me, he says, "Listen, we'll be getting complaints for the neighbours. Stan's blocking roads and everything." And I said, he says, "Well, you have a word with him." So I went down, I said, "Stan, your car." "Yes, Gaffer." He says, I says, "It's blocking road. You can't leave it there. You'll have to shift it." "All right." So the chairman says, did you speak to Stan? I says, yeah. So the next day, the car's there again. So he says, the chairman comes through, he says, have you noticed Stan's car's back there again? I says, no. So I goes down, I says, Stan, listen, you're going to get fined if you know. And I says, I don't think, it's going to be 50 quid or anything like that. And he said, I said, you're going to be getting whacked heavy. And his answer was, Gaffer, he says, when it gets to 50,000, he's a shout.
Oh.
That's the only time he was going to shift the car if he's when it mounts it.
Oh my God, that's a different world, man.
That's crazy.
He says, when you find me 50 grand, he says, I'm maybe thinking about shifting it. So that just shows you. But Stan was a great lad, but I think he was on that big, at the time he had a lot of problems mentally, I think, and not that we ever, it wasn't, but the physio just told us that he was on that strong antidepressant tablet that it went the other way. He didn't give a hoot about anything. So it was going from despair to the time that just like that, nothing bothered him,
Some player, but wasn't he? He was some player.
Great player. He was a great player.
Like obviously, Jim,
I let him go we let him go. He went to Spain in Oviedo, and you're not going to believe this one. Oviedo's in the north, for Spain. So, and he was commuting every day. He was fine. He lived in Birmingham. He used to go to the airport and fly to, I don't know if it's Madrid or something, and then make his way up to Oviedo. After training, he'd go back down, fly home, and back out the next one.
What?
Jesus.
No, that's what they were telling me. He ended up doing, or that was what I was being told anyway by the staff, all the boys that knew him,
But obviously, Jim, you're a household name in Scottish football. But when you went to Bradford, how did you find it down south compared to up here?
Well, we couldn't have turned it down. I'd heard a lot of bad things about the chairman, because he had a reputation. I mean, and he spent most of the money that before I got there, and he said, there was, which a lot of money to them at that time was 19 million plus, and he brought a lot of great players who had great careers, but they were at the end of their careers. And I think, if you're being honest, they came because it was money. He threw a lot of money. He threw good money at them. I mean, we had Benny Carboni, who was a lovely lad, and everything like that. But in those days, £40,000 something a week or something was a lot of money. And this is a guy who had never played for Italy or any perform, and he relegated 3 or 4 clubs. I'm not saying it was his fault, but he'd come from 3 clubs who had been. But the chairman loved him, and he did the deal, and he wasn't going to lose him. And he bought a lot of good players. But when you went there, you said to yourself, well, they all can't play, and they're not all going to be happy. So it was a tough ask, and we knew they were going. I think they knew they were never going to survive that year. But people that were there before me, like say Paul Jewell, I got friendly with that because they all knew what I was going into, and they tried to help me and steer me through some of the things that he's done. But he turned out to be a very, very difficult chairman to work for. I think the best thing I did for them was get probably 10 million off the wage bill because they couldn't afford to so. And if you look at when I cut down the squad, it wasn't easy when they're on that bigger money because they were all at the end of their careers and they'd all been fantastic. And don't get me wrong, all great players in their day, but I had to cut it down. And when I cut it down, the last 10 games, we had. If you look at the results, we had something going. We had some cracking. And I mean, Walter and Archie, we went to play second. We were already down, and we played. They were the first game after it was confirmed we were down, and they were in trouble. They were, if they didn't beat us, they were going to Sunderland the following week to stay in the league, and we were 2-0 up, missed a penalty, and we were 1-0 up, missed a penalty, and we were 2-1 up and missed another penalty, and they pipped us 3-2. I've never seen Walter and Archie so, drained after a match, and I'd seen that a lot with Hearts, Hearts Falkirk games and everything. but God, they knew they were very lucky that day to win.
Aye.
And the last thing they wanted. And in a way, I'm glad, because obviously Walter and I were quite close when it came to football matters and that, and till this day, we're him and Archie and myself and Billy and all that, we always bump into them. It's great to see them,
That would be some tag team match in the wrestling, Walter and Archie versus Jim Jefferies
and Billy.
Brown. That'd be something else. That'd be total entertainment.
The best story I heard, maybe you've had Coisty on and told the story, you'll probably hear from it, but did he ever tell you about Durante when he had to go and do a report for Barcelona? Have you heard that?
No.
No, what was that?
Yeah, it was Ali McCoy, because I meet Ali a lot in the holidays and that, because we go to the same area and play a bit of golf at times. A few years since, but I remember him telling me the story. He says that Walter sent Ian Durant when he was injured. He says he sent him to watch Barcelona in the Champions League. And, had a game against them, and so he went and watched the game, did a report, and I think he had a couple of sheets there where he had strengths and weaknesses, and of course come back, and he must have went to Walter's room and put down his report, and Walter came chasing down to Coisty and says, where's Durante? He says, oh, he's just away, Gaffer. He says, why? He says, he's put this report down on my desk. He says, what, with the Barcelona game? He says, he says, strengths and weaknesses. He says, no. He says, come and look at this. He says, on the strength side, the page was full. There's absolutely not a space left. They were so good that all their strengths were listed, right? He only had one thing in the weakness side, and that Ronaldinho had a bad set of teeth.
Brilliant.
That was it.
You've got to have some Romanov stories for us. You've got to.
Oh well, first time I met him was he had I got on quite well with his right hand man Sergei Fetitovas, who was mostly the go between. He was more in Scotland than that. So when it was arranged, I was going to meet him. So I'm over in Lithuania, and Sergei picks me up, and I'm all changed. I've got the collar and tie and everything on. So we go to his office, and he turns up with a little with jeans with the trendy holes in them and everything like that, and he's got the wee sort of bomber jacket on with a Simon Cowell t-shirt, and I'm looking at him, and he said, "You come with me." Well, I went downstairs, and he's got a huge, below in his office, he's got a huge room, which is just like a big gymnasium, which was all glass down, mirrored down one side, a state of the art, which was the big passion in Lithuania, and his passion is basketball. So he's got the big there. I thought, don't tell me we're going to be having a go with this basketball, right? The third he said, you just sit here. And this is me meeting him for the first time. So he comes out from behind the screen with this pretty girl, right? And goes and starts dancing. And I says to Sergei, I says, 45 minutes I had to sit there watching him dancing with this. Oh. And he said, oh, he's practicing because he's in the final of the Strictly Come Dancing Lithuanian version. Nice. I says, oh, so I had to wait there. He went away and he danced again for another half hour with another girl. And then we go up and have a crazy meeting or something, which I was expecting, because obviously you hear some things about him. So, because he was in a long boardroom table and he was at the other end, and he had this board behind me, and he was darting up to the board to talk about players and all that, and then dashing by. It's just a crazy meeting. Anyway, when I got back a couple of weeks later, I said to the girl who was Lithuanian in the office in Edinburgh, who was related, I think she was a lovely girl, Janice. She was related to, I think, Romanov's wife. But she was working in the club with Carbo Ogilvy and that. And I says, listen, how did Mr. Romanov get on in the final of the Strictly Come Dancing? Oh, she says, he won it. He won it. I says, oh, that's good. She says, he had to. He owns the radios, he owns the TV station. And another one, you have to hear this one, because we were having a friendly in Berlin, and Union Berlin, and I got the call, Mr. Romanov's coming to the game, he's flying in. I says, oh great, and you must congratulate him. Sergey says, you must congratulate him. I says, why? He says, he's a world champion. And I says, a world champion? What? He says, basketball. I says, he's fucking 5'5". How's he a basketball champion? You must congratulate him. So he comes round the corner, beautiful day in Berlin, we're playing again, and he's got the chest out, you know. And I'm saying, well done, Mr. You know, Billy's over it. And Billy said, what we do? Just congratulate him. He's a little. So we got the story at night. What happened is it was an over 55s competition in Argentina, of which Lithuania had a team, which he sponsored. Right? So they invited him along because he had paid for the trip, basically. And these boys were all retired. I mean, they were all great players at the time. So what they did was, it was done in a section. They had won it with 2 games to spare, or 1 game to spare. So in the last game, just as a thank you, they put him on with a bit with the strip, and he's going about telling everybody he's a world. That's what you were up against with Vladimir. In a funny way, I got on fine with him. He was well named. He was just Mad Vlad, and that's the best way to describe him.
Jim, it has been absolutely fantastic speaking to you. Honestly, it's been great, mate.
Good to meet you.
But at the end, every week on Football Daft, we put our guest Scottish football knowledge to the test with our 90-second quiz. You up for it, mate?
Yeah, on you go.
Right, cool. Well, we've got a leaderboard. David Martindale's top of the leaderboard with a score of 16. In joint second, it's John Sutton and Chick Young with 15. Mark Wilson and Keith Lasley are third with 14. Other selected scores include Barry Ferguson on 12. Yogi is on 6. Jim Leishman on 5. And at the bottom, it's a tie between Peter Lovenkrands, Derek Johnston, Craig Levine, and Mixu Patalainen, who are all on 3. Is there anybody you want to beat on that leaderboard, Jim?
As long as I get past Yogi, I can then I'll be fine.
There we go. Well, you can't pass. You must give an answer, mate. Even if you don't know, you can't pass. Right. You get 90 seconds in grade.
Is it on football or is it on general
football,
knowledge?
mate? Just all football.
Football.
I thought you were going to say, is it on River City?
River City, is that what you were going to say? right, okay.
Got the questions there, Grado?
Right, I've got the questions ready, okay? Are we ready, John? Remember, you can't pass. Name either club Pele played for.
Santos.
Stephen Purden plays which character in River City?
Sorry, say again?
Stephen Purden plays which character on River City?
Sales football.
Yes.
What club did Brian Laudrup leave Rangers to join?
Chelsea.
Kelty Hearts are based in which Fife village?
Kelty.
In what year did you win the Texaco Cup with Hearts?
1975.
Who's the current Dunfermline Athletic manager?
Stevie Crawford.
Scotland international Grant Hanley currently plays for which club?
He plays for Norwich.
Name any Scottish side Lee Wilkie played for.
Dundee.
Who did you sign Simon Stainrod from to Falkirk?
Rouen in France.
What club are known as the Honest Men?
Yeah, United.
Who does Robert Snodgrass currently play for?
West Brom.
Name a Scottish club with Albion in their name.
Time.
Oh, there you
Albion
have
Rovers.
it. Not too
Yeah, he
bad.
gets that one. He got
That's
Albion
that,
Rovers
got
at the end.
Yeah.
There we go.
By the way, you only get one wrong there in the questions that were asked.
Excellent. Just get away, Tom.
John's raging because he hates. I done that last
Sorry,
week. So
sorry, John. I get excited.
Listen, there's a quiz dynamic here, Chris Toll.
I know.
We'll let the guests know.
You get one right.
Right, we'll go to the wrong answer.
I sit with my fingers and I count the right answers.
Jim, you did very well. Like Chris said, not many wrong. You only got one wrong, and apparently you won the Texaco Cup with Hearts 70-71 season, Jim.
70-71.
That was it. Aside from that, you got them all spot on, including the fact that Stephen Purden is Chelsea Bob in River City. You got 11. Well done. You beat
Well
Yogi.
done.
Well done.
You beat Yogi then, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yes, that's fine.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Brilliant, Jim. Jim,
It's
honestly, we
been a
appreciate you
pleasure,
taking the
man.
time so much.
Great
It's been
boys.
a pleasure.
Thanks for asking, and I've been really pleased to meet you. It's been great.
Oh, that's great,
Brilliant,
Jim.
Jim.
Honestly,
Thank
the
you,
best
Jim.
part.
All the best.
You know,
Thanks a
right?
lot.
Take care of
Okay,
yourself.